We've liked to have lots of varied guests on recently. We're having other content creators, other podcasters, other YouTubers on. This guy has a YouTube channel called Raised by Giants. He also had a podcast as well. I would like to welcome Ryder Lee to Rise Above. Let's hope this goes well with the sound. Ryder Lee, welcome.
What's up, gentlemen? Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Let me just get the screen. So, yes, we can hear you and we can see you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thanks so much for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. And that house music was banging, bro.
You enjoyed that?
Yeah.
We had a little
Got me
spectrum
hyped. I'm
there.
excited.
We had a little spectrum there. We sort of went from drum and bass to a bit of garage. We must have gone through the house to get to the garage if we started with drum and bass at the end of the day. We took you on a whole tour of the lot there. There was quite a few different styles. So yeah, we like to mix it up here. We have lots of varied guests, all different types of topics, and we like to intersect it with music as well. So
yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've been listening this entire time to all your guests. Really, really good guests that you guys got on here.
So tell me a little bit about your channel and the journey that you've been on with the investigations and the rabbit holes that you've been down with some of the guests that you've been speaking to, mate.
Well, it really started. I could have started my channel way earlier than when I did it. I always wanted to do some kind of truther kind of podcast or something because being in this kind of community, it's hard to talk to regular everyday people about anything that's really going on. They just brush you off, and I felt kind of isolated, and I was like, hey, I just needed to develop something that I can get on and talk with people like you and anybody else that I really bring on. So I just decided to make it a spiritual podcast, which I kind of I go into all kinds of different topics. I talk about aliens, UFOs, ancient history, paranormal, any of that stuff, which I think that it's all connected, right? It's all wrapped up under one banner, and it's just our perception that we've separated it all, and so that's really kind of what I did. And it kind of started in 2020 whenever the whole virus stuff went down, and I was like, hey, someone needs to do something about this, because I do believe that this is a spiritual war. It's a psychological operation. And that's the way that they get away with all of their plans and their agendas, is making us think that it's our idea to do it. Psychological warfare, psychological manipulation. The United States has spent more money on psychological operations and psychological warfare than any other country in the world. Right. And that's why it wasn't such a boots on the ground kind of scenario here in the United States. It was more us making us think that it's our idea, not like in other countries, like Australia and Canada and some parts of the UK. It was really like boots on the ground. This is what you have to do. It wasn't like that here, and that's
Australia and New Zealand. They got it hard, man.
They got hit really hard.
Really hard.
And they've mapped out where they can get away with the things the most, right? They know, they've planned it all out. They know what they can do through social conditioning, social manipulation, culture creation. And, they do certain things in certain countries, and then in other countries, they do different things. Just like here in the United States, they give certain information to certain parts of the United States, and then other information to other parts of the United States, so that nobody can be on the same page about anything.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. So, deliberate confusion, right?
It's like compartmentalized.
Yeah. Problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem, and then they already have the solution. They gauge the reaction, and then they offer the solution. And their solution is never the thing that benefits humanity. So can I ask,
were you sort of like researching this kind of stuff before 2020 and 2020 sort of kicked you into action with regards to the channel, or were you someone that was sort of actually dipped in at the deep end in 2020 altogether?
Oh no, I started in 2008. Whenever the movie Zeitgeist came out.
Me too. I was a Zeitgeist cherry popper as well, mate.
Yeah, blew my mind, which I always knew that there was something wrong with the way that the world operated and, and everything. And that just really confirmed it. And Zeitgeist, I think, was a huge one for a lot of people. And some people it was Loose Change, which Loose Change is a really good one. But I like Zeitgeist because it broke it up into a bunch of different aspects of our world.
Yeah,
the first part of it.
I didn't necessarily agree with where Zeitgeist was trying to take us in the end, because it ended up actually going on about resource-based economy, which is actually the Great Reset.
Yes, it did. But I really haven't watched any of the other ones after.
No, I stayed away from that because it was sort of steering you into some sort of like utopian solution, which is basically the same as the WEF. But you know,
they were like, I think the last one was like all smart cities, and they were like showing how like the whole smart city grid was.
Maybe they got co-opted. Maybe the powers that shouldn't be saw the first episode and thought, yeah, let's get these guys under the wing. Let's steer them in episode 2 and 3.
I think so. It would be interesting to actually go back and watch those later ones, because, like I said, I didn't pay any attention to the second one or the third one. I think there's a fourth one as well. I think it came out on Hulu or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, that's really how it all kicked off with me. For the first part of that movie was about religion.
Ryder, we've got a bit of mic clipping coming from your end. Is there? Could you maybe hit the settings and have a look if you've got auto gain control turned on or off? Because I'm hearing it a little bit, and you've got a nice Shure mic there. You shouldn't really have it happening, but we're getting a bit of clip. Oh, right. You've turned it right down now. Can we get somewhere in the middle? How's that? Speak now.
How about now?
That's much better. Then I can turn you up a little bit at this end, maybe.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. Carry on. That's great. Sorry.
No, I was just saying how the first part of Zeitgeist is all about religion, and how religion, is like a whole man-made concept, and Christianity is based off of much older religions. And then it gets into, the 9/11 thing, how 9/11 was, set up and it was all manufactured. And then at the third part, it was all about the monetary system. So it was a really great introduction into how, the world is run and how we've been lied to for a really, really long time. And then it just kind of developed from there. Then I started listening to podcasts and shows all from there. And then it just, developed and unraveled. And then, like you said, in 2020, I was like, hey, like, I knew what it was, like, right off the rip. I knew that it was like a whole, I'm not going to talk too much about it because you guys are on YouTube and I don't want to get you censored or the show.
As long as we stay away from the C sounds like Hovis word and the old quack scene word, we tend to be okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just knew that it was just a huge, it was a psyop. It was a huge hoax, right? And I knew where I was going and what they were trying to do. And I was trying to, tell people, and, they just weren't listening. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the best way to do it? And then I was like, all right, well, I can do what these other people are doing on these podcasts and on these YouTube channels and stuff. So I just, created my own. I started out from the bottom. I had 0 subscribers when I first started. So, and I've grown a little bit since then. So, I mean, that's really the journey. And I believe that, we're in a huge spiritual war right now. And if they can, it's one of my presentations that I put together. I titled it, Attack on the Heart, a Fight for Humanity, which, I believe if they can take over the heart of an individual, then then they can take over the rest. They can take over the mind and everything. So this whole thing has just been a huge attack on the heart, separation, the wearing of face diapers, and, standing so far apart, closing down your business. This is all stuff people have talked about before, but I mean, it's I think that it's important.
Well, mate, it sounds like you have a very similar story to us. We've been researching stuff for a number of years before all this happened, which sort of gave us the precursor to maybe have a bit more insight in early 2020 into what was actually happening. And I got, kicked up the arse into creating this podcast. And we're on episode 70? What's this, episode 76? Yeah, 76 now. We try to broadcast every week, and here we are now in 2022. So I think it sounds like we've been on a very similar journey. One of our guests earlier on, Inspector Veg, an MC rapper, he was doing his career before he'd done his research, but again, he felt an obligation, he said, in 2020 with what was happening to be on record and to speak out.
Absolutely. And that's the most important thing, is that, if we would have stood up, if the United States, I don't really know how people feel, but, the United States is regarded as one of the last standing superpowers of the planet, regardless of if we really are or not. That doesn't really matter. perception that we are one of the last standing superpowers on the planet. And if we would have stood up in the very beginning and we would have said no, we're not shutting our businesses down, we're not going along with this whole agenda, then it would have been ended. There would have been nothing that they could have done about it, and the rest of the countries would have followed suit. But the whole plan was to get the United States subservient, right? And to not make them, question, and just to stand down. And, that's where the whole Q psyop comes in. The whole QAnon thing was a huge psyop to get people in the United States to stand down and not do anything about it, and just, trust the plan and go along with what everybody else, what they're hearing from, online, that everything's going to be taken care of, that the white hats are in control and everything's going to turn out. Well, we've seen how that's gone down right now. I mean,
how did that work out?
Yeah, there's been 135 food processing plants burnt down in the United States in the past 6 months.
Yeah, we've been covering all of that week by week, all of the explosions, the random fires, the trucks driving into them. It's been happening in the UK too, by the way, Ryder. We've been having random fires at meat, especially meat processing plants.
Yep, and that's an agenda too, is to get us eating bugs. I mean, Canada just opened up the biggest cricket farming factory in the world in Canada. I mean, that's an agenda. They're telling us what they want to do. That's the Federal Reserve, the chair member of the Federal Reserve just a couple of weeks ago was talking about how that they already have a digital backed blockchain currency in place, and they're getting ready to roll it out in the end of 2023. They're telling us that they're going to do all this stuff. It's just like, are we paying attention? Are we listening to them? Because it used to be hidden back in the day. It used to be hidden 25 years ago, and you had to kind of research it and look for it. But no, it's not like that anymore, dude. They're telling you exactly what they're doing, right on TV.
Sure. I mean, I remember a time 10 or 15 years ago where I'd be doing my research, I'd read a book or two, and then I was like, right, now I would like to search out another subject to really immerse myself in, to add to my collection. And I'd actually have to do some research into finding a new topic and how it would relate. But now, like you say, things are being thrown at us at such a rate. We've only got to turn on the mainstream media or look out the window or hear someone at a bus stop. The examples of the foregone agenda are being thrown at our face in every direction. Yeah. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how far it's been taken, and it's really progressing really, really fast. It's like it's one thing after another. Every day it's a different psyop. I just shared a meme on my Instagram page. It was like, I wake up and there's like a cycle, and then another side. It's just a part of our everyday reality. I haven't caught on by now, which I think that they have. I think that people are catching on more. They're just not speaking about it. They're just not talking about it. I think a lot more people know what's happening than meets the eye. It's just that it's not in the forefront, and it's not being talked about in their circles, right? Because whenever you have a group of people or family members or friends or something like that, and you start to question things, they're there to punch you right back down, right? And
sure.
that's a really big problem that we find ourselves in, is our friends and our family and the people that we surround ourselves with, right? They don't they're just there to tell you that you're crazy, or that and even when you provide them with proof, right? You can be like, okay, you can print out a piece of paper of 135 food processing plants that's been burnt down with links to each individual one that's been burnt down, and they'll still won't even pay attention to it. That's how psychologically manipulated and mind controlled that we've become.
Yeah, it's like a firewall has been installed.
And that's something that I've really researched and looked into, as well as the CIA MK Ultra stuff. And I found out that this started out with the CIA doing experiments on their own men, right? To discover if they could get rid of agents' memories that were going to quit the department, and that they had classified information. So they utilized different kinds of drugs, pain, torture, hypnosis, and electric shock to try and get them to forget And they would also use a mixture of different chemicals to see if you could get a person to commit crimes or induce them to do certain or specific things, right? And of course, the CIA saying that they didn't carry any of that out or carry it through, but it evolved into MK Ultra program, which the original code name was called Artichoke. And that included 149 sub-projects. And these sub-projects included open-air testing on the United States and experimentations on prisoners and soldiers and college students. I mean, there was a Army program that started in 1959. It was a volunteer program. And they were told that they would be doing experimentation on new weapons. And whenever they got to Fort Detrick, Maryland, where the experiment was taking place and the experiment was done, they found out that it was being done on drugs and chemicals, right? But they were never told that that's what they were being experimented on. And they just knew that they would kind of go crazy for a few days or some weeks. And years later, they would experience something similar to Agent Orange, right? Because the chemical that they were using was called BZ. And you can Google BZ military use and you'll find out that it's 100% legit and 1,000 times stronger than LSD. And it can make you go out of your head to the point where you don't even know where you are, or who you are, or what you're doing for weeks at a time, right? And it's a freaking horrible drug and it can seriously incapacitate people for weeks at a time, make them lose their mind. And the Army was using this drug in 1959 on their soldiers for experimentation. But the real goal here, I believe, was to expand this to a collective level, right? So then that's whenever we get all of these pharmaceutical medications and antidepressants and antipsychotics and anxiety medications, so they started this out on an individual basis, learning how to do it that way, and then expanded it out through the pharmaceutical industry and CIA projects like Project Mockingbird, manufacturing events, staging things, because that's really how I believe that our reality works. Like I stated when we first got on here, is through belief and perception, right? And that's how they get away with the things that they do, is psychological manipulation, making us think
hijacking
it's our
perception.
idea.
Yeah,
exactly. If they can get you to believe in something, it doesn't matter if the event or the thing that's happening is actually real or not, as long as there's a large enough percentage of the population that believes that it's actually happening, right? And then the whole MK Ultra thing also, ties into, the remote viewing and the psychic aspects. During the Cold War, we've seen this huge boom of psychics and remote viewers that were working for the CIA. Pat Price, Uri Geller, Ego Swan, they were all psychic remote viewers working for the CIA. And Sidney Gottlieb, he was the head of the MK Ultra program, and he was wanting to use psychedelics on the remote viewing CIA project Stargate, which, the MK Ultra was not only to, figure out, mind control and stuff, but it was also to create psychics and remote viewers and remote assassins through a project called it was a sub-project under the MK Ultra banner called Project Spellbinder. And, this is what I believe a lot of this has all been about, is trying to create these psychic assassins and psychic remote viewers, right? Because if you could accurately see the past, present, and future, right? Like I mentioned earlier, Pat Price, he was the most gifted psychic remote viewer in the history of the world. And
it's funny that you should say Yuri. Sorry to interrupt. It's funny you should say Uri Geller, right? Because to most people in this country, their idea of Uri Geller is some idiot on TV that used to bend spoons, because that's what most people know him as. Most people have no idea that the guy had a multi-million-dollar career actually prospecting oil for the big oil companies, because he could actually divinate oil, which is obviously small potatoes compared to the remote viewing work that he was doing for the CIA. Most people have no idea about that.
But that's his cover. That's kind of how he stays in the shadows. It's kind of like he's like a magician and a spoon bender, and that's kind of like what he uses to cover up his real abilities. I mean, he legit worked for the CIA and Mossad, right? He was doing remote viewing work for them, So there is some, but that's how they do it. They hide behind these characters that they've created, right? That's the same way with sort of like with Alex Jones and to a certain degree David Icke. And that's not me talking bad about David Icke, but he's just created this persona that he kind of hides behind in a certain way, just like Alex Jones. He's created this whole character, and that gives them the ability to put out real information hiding behind something that is like a character that isn't taken too seriously, especially when it comes to Alex Jones, right?
Yeah, well, I would say Alex Jones is certainly almost like an actual performance piece, because you can look. I mean, one of our team, Magic's, looked at the production company behind Alex Jones, and it's the same company as Joe Rogan. And I think it's something like Misinformation Incorporated or something ridiculous like that. It's got a really obvious sort of in-your-face name. And the thing is, Alex Jones even talks about coming from like a CIA family. So it is proper. In my opinion, it's just total revelation of the method. I think, in my opinion, when it comes to David Icke, he might be someone that has been allowed to operate and maybe been given information or channeled information at certain times that is being deliberately given out. I'm not so sure if he's totally a contrived character like Alex Jones, though. I'm not convinced about that.
That's you're completely right. I don't believe I believe a lot of David Icke's information to be 100% true. I mean, he's kind of the godfather of this whole conspiracy.
Yeah. We call him King David, and some people hate it because they're no, David Icke's the king of shills. And I look at it in a much more. I don't look at things in such a black and white way. I think that we're in some sort of metaphysical play, and there are these characters. And David Icke is the guy who's been chased around the world by the ADL, banned in almost every country, but he's still going, and he's still the king of conspiracy theories. And like you say, the information that he puts out is 99% good. I would say 99% in many cases. I cut my teeth in this stuff, reading David Icke books. And then back engineering all of that and going to all the different individual authors, the original source material for all the various subjects that he covers. And then, over 20 years, I sort of, learned it all myself. But I started off by reading David Icke books, as many people did, or seeing his talks.
Absolutely. I love David Icke, and that wasn't me talking bad about him. They just hit him with a non-linear warfare type of situation, right? They did a thing where, because where we heard of reptilians was from David Icke, and regardless if people believe in reptilians or not, the majority of the population doesn't believe in reptilians, right? So that's what they always fall back on with David Icke to try and make people not
the reptilian guy, right?
That's the wacky guy that believes in reptilians. So therefore, the rest of the information to normal people, not people like us, not people in the community and conspiracy community, but the normal everyday people will just disregard the rest of the information that he's brought to the forefront because they look at him as the wacky reptilian guy.
Yeah, so the red herring is sort of pinned on him, sort of thing.
That's a non-linear warfare type of scenario that the CIA uses all the time. They pick the wackiest thing out of any of the stuff that you've ever talked about. There was a scenario, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a doctor that Mr. T, and we know who Mr. T is, the former president of the United States, was pushing about the hydroxy and blah blah blah, and they came out and hit her with nonlinear warfare because she previously stated that they were putting alien DNA in the jabs, right? So immediately discredited everything that she had done up into that,
Whereas what she might have said is alien to a human, i.e. this is synthesized. It's not human DNA. It's like some sort of chimeric, and we've got to be very careful what we say here. Some sort of like chimeric concoction. Yeah. So you could say that's alien. She might have even been totally misquoted.
Exactly.
I mean, David Icke was misquoted, wasn't he? Because he said he didn't say.
Well, all he said was he interviewed people that said they had seen people these elites in question shapeshift into reptilians, and then he went to see Credo Mutwa, which was the storyteller of the Zulu nation, some 90-year-old super shaman, and he said, "Oh yeah, the Chitahori," and he spoke about the Zulu reptilian mythos, right? So all David Icke was really doing was being a pundit of a load of information, which like you're pointing out, and I do tend to agree with this, might have been fed to him via these people that had approached him and said, you're David Icke, I need to tell you my story, so
and that's not to say that some sort of I'd like to try and take everything into consideration, and everything is a possibility, right? That doesn't mean that I'm discrediting any kind of reptilian species. I'm sure there could be. Who knows? Who knows what we got living, under the ground? We got the.
I think there's definitely something in it. There was a reptilian past in that we've been involved in. I'm absolutely convinced of it. Whether the Queen shapeshifted into an 8-foot lizard, that's not something that I'm going to put my name to right here, right now. It's one of those ones. It's about being sensible with it. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of people that were throwing the R slur around, they probably never even read a David Icke book and actually.
No, of course they haven't.
No, of course they haven't. They probably they'd heard a 30-second clip of him say to drop the R bomb when he's talking at Wembley. They hadn't watched the 10 hours that was leading up to that.
The prerequisite information
where we was
required.
Talking about like the nature of reality and interdimensional entities and stuff like that. So there was no prerequisite, but that's the same old when someone from the normie sphere wants to come in and discredit something from a point of ignorance, basically.
Yeah, they take everything out of context and then only feed you a certain little bit of information and clip things out. I mean, I don't know if it's that the reptilians can actually 100% legit shapeshift, or if it's some kind of controlling our perception and their highly advanced technology. I think that I don't think that they can actually, if they do exist, I don't think that they can actually shapeshift. I think that it would be controlling our perception to see them as something human. And then whenever they don't want that guard up anymore, they switch it off, and then it shows the real form, right?
Well, that's the interesting thing, right? Because what you said there is actually nearer to what it actually said in those David Icke books. He said that it was actually more likely to be the perception of the people, because many of them were psychic, and they said that they could actually see people's ethereal bodies and their auras and stuff. So if we were to believe in the idea of like sort of possession, and a demon using someone like a sock puppet, well, if a psychic looks at you and then you shift into a lizard, then maybe they're actually seeing something else that's around you, and that's actually what David Icke was postulating in many of those books. He didn't really say that there were shape-shifting lizards at all. I'm sounding like David Icke's PR agent here.
No, but the point is he was misquoted.
No, that is the point, because I read all of the books. I actually read them cover to cover, so I actually know what he said in the books. Yeah, he was massively misquoted. He that was his own conclusion from all of the different interviews and all the different source material that he took the reptilian stuff from. I would still go back and read it now, because it's absolutely intriguing, all of that different information. And what you do with it is up to you at the end of the day. What we do with any of this information is up to us on an individual level, because it means different things to different people.
Absolutely. And that's why I take everything into consideration, and I look at everything as a possibility, because that's where they want you stuck, right? They want you stuck in a certain perception of reality. And if we're not learning and we're not taking different things into consideration every day, then we're effectively not growing, and we're not expanding. Our consciousness isn't growing. We're stuck in a box. We're stuck in an echo chamber, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the the controllers of our reality want us at. They want us stuck into a certain idea, thought, and belief system. And whenever you try and step outside of that, again, you have these people that are around you to push you right back down into that box, right?
Sure. So when we're trying to step outside the box and entertain new thoughts, right? Who have you had on your show, say in 2022? Of all the people you've interviewed or you've chatted to, who has really blown your mind this year and opened up something new for you?
I would say probably Dr. Joseph Farrell and Walter Bosley, because I really because into the study into UFOs and mind control and aliens and all that, I really started to discover that I don't believe that any of the craft or any of the UFOs or anything that we see in the sky is actual extraterrestrial. I think it's all us. It's all us. It's all our military. And we've had, this technology, this highly advanced technology that we've been working on since the mid 1800s in Northern California, the Sonaro Aero Club, Peter Minnis and Delshaw were working on. There's actual schematics and drawings of these aircraft that we were working on in the mid 1800s in California, and that the Germans were also working on since World War II.
So is that sort of going down the avenue of that breakaway society that took the technology with them after World War II?
Yes, we had, there's all of these events leading up after the war, after World War II, all these big events, after the war in 1995, when the war ended, immediately, we know all of the German scientists and engineers and technicians were brought into the United States through Project Paperclip.
And to the UK too.
Yes, UK, yep. And I believe that...
and into the Soviet Union.
Yep. Russia got some of them as well. And then 1 year later, in 1946, was Operation High Jump, which was with Admiral Richard E. Byrd. And that ended in, it went to Antarctica, to the South Pole, and ended in 1947, right? Which was a very short amount of time. What did they find there? It was, rumors that the Germans had highly advanced technology there, and they just decimated their Admiral Byrd's naval fleet, and he came back to the United States with his tail between his legs. But then there was another event that happened in 1947, which was the Roswell UFO crash, right? And my personal thoughts is that whenever Admiral Byrd went to the South Pole, to Antarctica, encountered these this highly advanced German technology, destroyed their fleet. They came back to the United States and they're like, oh, shit, these Germans have this very advanced technology. What are we going to do? Well, we need to figure out a way if we can't figure out the technology, we can't figure out the anti-gravity craft, then we'll just figure out something to shoot them out of the sky, right? We'll develop some kind of directed energy weapon to just take them out of the sky. So that's what I believe that the Roswell 1947 crash was. It was, we took those craft out of the sky on purpose because we were like, hey, we're going to try and get back at them in any way that we can. And we thought that they were German craft.
So you think that the whole UFOs filled with little grey Zeta Reticulans is actually a cover-up because there's Nazis in there?
Yes.
I know I'm oversimplifying it there.
Yes. And then we have the Washington flap event, which was 4 years later of 1952, the craft over the White House, which I believe were the Germans again. And, there was a shoot down order given for the craft over the White House. If people haven't heard of that, it's called the Washington flap event. You can Google it and there's pictures of it. There's a lot of documentation of UFOs over the White House in 1952. Wow. And then we have the Kecksburg event in 1965, which according to Dr. Josefero, which I had on my show, was German Bell technology. And so, from my research, this breakaway German group fled to Antarctica with their advanced craft and technology after the war. And that's when Richard E. Burr went with his naval fleet in 1947 to Antarctica to track them down. Germans demolished them. Then they flew their craft over the White House in 1952, which were Germans and their advanced craft, tons of pictures. So 1947, I'm not 100% sold on the fact that the Roswell crash was Germans. I actually think that it was some sort of ET presence, some kind of, but I think that that's probably the only one. And one of the only ones where actual ETs were present during a crash. But the whole problem is that we couldn't figure out their technology, and it caught us off guard because we were expecting Germans, right? We're expecting it to be human beings. And whenever we discovered that it was actual ETs, we're like, okay, well, how can we reverse engineer this craft to be able to go head to head with the Germans?
And why are these ETs collaborating with Nazis? Are they racist? right. I just want to flip the subject a bit because you've spoke about Antarctica. You've talked about Admiral Byrd and Operation High Jump, right? So, if you're questioning UFOs, are you also questioning what is beyond Antarctica and space itself? You can see where I'm going here. What's your personal view about the shape of or what our realm is?
Just so you know, we're not like a flat Earth channel or anything like that.
We're globe skeptics, but we're certainly not flat earthers per se.
Well, okay, this is my personal opinion. I don't believe that. Don't attack me, okay, people in the chat.
No,
I don't believe
mate. We got everything on the table here. This is Rise Above.
I don't believe that the Earth is flat, but I do believe that the Earth is way bigger than what we've been led to believe.
Greater Earth theory, I believe this is called.
Right. Okay. So I actually had this question the other day on one of my friends' podcasts, and I don't explain it too well, so try not to give me too much.
Yeah, no, none of us really know. So it's
okay. So all the countries that we know of, everywhere in the world, the UK, Australia, Germany, Russia, any place that we've been told is on the other side of the planet is all on the face of the planet. Right. So take this, for example. It's not very big, but I don't have anything circular that's bigger than this top of this chapstick cap. But I believe that all the countries that we know about is on the face of the planet. Right. So it's perceived that it's flat, and there's no curvature because we haven't been to the curve of the planet. And there's an entire other side of the planet. There's an entire backside that we've never been to, that normal, everyday human beings have never been to. And who knows what's back there? Probably a whole other set of, whole other species of beings that who knows how long they've been here.
I've got a lot of time for this. Have you heard of like what's called crater theory? That we are actually, that we are surrounded by what Earth is called the ice wall. Is the reason is we're actually in a crater, sort of like a puddle. And we could be basically in some sort of like biosphere enclosure within this crater. You heard of this?
Yes, I have, and I think it's my theory is very similar. That I think that that it's sort of like that. I don't know about the ice wall theory too much, but I do believe that the Earth is way bigger than what we've been led to believe. And it's kind of like the moon, right? We only see the front part of the moon. We don't see the back side of the moon. Well, that's exactly like what the Earth is. We're only on the face of the Earth, and that's why NASA always fakes all of the images of Earth. Is because they don't want us to know that we're on a little tiny section of the planet. And
we've all seen those. We've all seen those maps where there's sort of like a ring of land around us, and then there's just like loads of massive other land masses outside, and we're basically just this small little circle. Yeah, mate. Like I always ask the question now because it's sort of like a big bone of contention, and everyone starts swinging in a pendulum and starts arguing about globe or flat. And I just think that's so like simplistic. We always like to take the third option here. and really sort of examine the possibility that there's probably somewhere that's in between those two binaries, which is much closer to the actual truth.
The third side of the coin.
Yeah. Anyway, it's probably a holographic projection anyway. So arguing over whether it's flat or round is really retarded.
Yeah, I definitely think that we're in some sort of holographic simulated reality for sure. I mean, that gets into the nature of reality and how all this stuff works, and we're in a duality and a polarity here. We have to experience everything to be here in a 3D physical body. I 100% believe means that we have to experience the good, the bad, the ugly to also experience pleasure, joy, and love. Right? That's just how our reality is set up. There's no other way around it. Right? If we're just here in nothing but love and pleasure and things like that, then we wouldn't exist in a 3D physical body. That's the whole point of being here is here for the experience. We're here to experience everything that this 3D reality has to offer, and it's really an honor to be here in a 3D physical reality. There's no other.
It's a very special experience, and there's a much deeper meaning to this game than most people think.
I think it's really simple, right? I think people have complicated it to the point that we have no idea what's going on, and I think that you can simplify it down to that we're just here for the experience, nothing more, nothing less. Right. Sure. This is a game here, a game sort of like a game, and whatever you do here, you carry on with you to the next life, and unless you decide to you want to incarnate back onto the planet, then you lose all of your memories and all of your thoughts and everything that you did before, and that's also a part of being here in this experience. We're wiped on purpose. We have no memory on purpose of anything, so that we can get the full experience of being here in a physical 3D reality. I mean, that's from all the people that I've talked to and all the people that I've brought on my show and my own experiences and my own conclusion, my own thoughts and ideas, that's what it really boils down to. And the dark and the light is here working in tandem. It's not a separation. They're working hand in hand together. And the dark side's role here, and Michael Lee Hill says this. I just had him on my show a couple of days ago, last week, and I believe him. And he says that the dark's role here is to test you, right? It's here to test you. It's here to dangle dark carrots in front of your face to see if you're going to bite. Right. Yeah. And then the light's role here is to see how much love and compassion you can bring to any suffering that comes your way. But the light also tests you as well. It tests you on compassion and love, right? Are you going to put yourself before you put before somebody else, right? Are you going to help somebody before you help yourself, right? And that's a tricky scenario as well. Like, how far out of the way are you going to go to help somebody if it's going to hurt you as well, right? Are you going to jump into a lake to try and save somebody that's drowning if you don't know how to swim? Are you going to jump into a sand pit of quicksand to try and save somebody? Whenever that you're going to go down as well. It becomes really tricky when you get into thoughts and ideas and concepts like that, right? I think it's just, knowing your place in this reality and knowing when to act and when not to act, and, minding your own business. When something doesn't involve you, you don't get involved, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it comes down to free will and to the violation of other people's free will as well. Because at the end of the day, when you think you might be helping someone, you can actually be violating their free will to make their mistakes, like you say. Like, maybe that's what you mean by knowing when to step back.
Absolutely. There was a gentleman, Robert Maxim, which is a really good friend of mine, and he explained it to me like this, and it really put everything into perspective for me. Was let's say you're sitting in a classroom, right? College classroom, high school, doesn't matter. And the teacher doesn't show up for the class. Are you going to stand up and start teaching that class? That's the best way that anyone has ever put it to me before. And no, you're not, right? Because one, you're not qualified to teach the class. You have no idea what you're doing or what the class was even supposed to be about in the first place, right? So it's not your place. It's not your place to stand up and start teaching that class, right? And that really just, I'm like, wow. Okay. And then that means that I just need to let people be, right? I just need to let people do whatever it is that they're doing and just take care of me and focus on myself and what I'm supposed to be doing in this life and not worrying about what anybody else is doing. And there's an intense amount of freedom within that when you realize that the perception and what other people are doing doesn't matter. And that eliminates a lot of ego, right? And that eliminates a lot of, oh, I'm better than you or you're better than me, right? Just wipes it off the board because it doesn't matter. You don't put any credence into any of that stuff, right? You just do you and you figure out your own life and your own journey and your own awakening and do things the way that you want to do them, right?
Sure. I had a conversation with my sensei about this last year, Master Lee, who'll be joining us quite shortly. And I said about, when this started, I was sort of like drawn to speaking out, going to protests, getting on park benches in the town centre on a sound system and speaking out again about what was going on. Same reason we started the podcast. And I got in trouble about it with the law. And when that was all sorted out in 2021, I said, I said to Sensei, I don't really feel like going back to doing that. Telling people what they should be doing. Don't do this. You're being tricked. Don't do this. This is the lie. Don't do that. It'll probably make you more unhealthy than this will. He said, what would be better is if you just did what you would want to do and set an example to other people. And if people want to follow your example, then good. But, and I guess that's what we've tried to sort of do with the show and, with what I'm doing with this is, we're not trying to tell anyone what the truth is anymore. And we're certainly not trying to change anybody's mind about anything. This is now, as far as I'm concerned, it's group personal exploration.
Yeah, we're learning here.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And and no one that's tuned in that's might be new or is not, down with what we've been saying for the last 2 years. We're at no point trying to convince anyone of anything anymore. This is like you say, it's not really about that now. We need to concentrate on ourselves.
It's about rising above that.
Yeah. It's about rising above that polarity, and that's constantly swinging pendulum back and forth between the two polarities. Because, like we were saying before, if this is all about energy harvesting, if this is really some sort of there's some parasites in this soul farm, the reason that they can extract the energy is because it's constantly swinging between these 2 points, like AC, DC or whatever. That's where the energy gets extracted, where it is drawn. That's why Joachim and Boaz is so revered by the Freemasons. That's how they extract the fucking energy. It's because we're constantly going back and forth between these 2 points. Is it flat? Is it round? Is Q real? Is it a psyop?
Did we go to the moon? Did we not?
Yeah, exactly.
Kennedy, all of it.
These are all pendulums. And at the end of the day, that's how the energy is extracted.
That's also the divide and conquer thing too, right? See, sure. a lot of these concepts and these thoughts and ideas have been planted in the community on purpose, right? To get everybody at each other's throats about it, instead of just sitting back and being like, or having a civil conversation about anything. It's just constant, fighting and constant back and forth. Right? It's like what I was explaining earlier. They'll feed a certain part of the population a certain amount of information, and the other part of the population completely opposite information, right? So it gets people to where that they can't agree on anything. Like the infiltration just doesn't stop in high levels of government. all of the communities have been infiltrated to a certain degree.
Sure.
Right? And it's just about discernment and who you're listening to and who you think is real and who's not. And that's not to say that you need to, call out people that you don't think is real or that you think is, spreading bullshit or misinformation or disinformation. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, just put it in your back pocket. That's what I try and tell everybody on my show. Like, if you don't like a guest or somebody that I bring on, just try and remember it, put it in your back pocket. It doesn't mean that you have to listen to them all the time, right? And because it might have planted a seed, right? That's really what my goal is. And I do this all the time. I do it in grocery stores. I do it in gas stations. I do it really wherever I go. I'll just give them a little something that they can nibble on, right?
Sure.
I'll just be like, yo, a lot of this is, bullshit, right? I don't know. I'll just make up something whenever I go into the store and talk to a cashier or talk to someone that's walking around, right? And you never know what that's going to do to them, right?
Yeah.
It might not affect them at all, but it might affect them tomorrow. They might be laying in their bed later that night and think about something that I said, and then something clicks, and then it creates a spider web effect, and then they say it to somebody else, or it gets their wheels turning. So you have absolutely no idea, the effects that you're having on the community, I'm having on the community, any guests that you bring on, any guests that I bring on, right? We have no idea, because everything creates a ripple effect. Right?
Yeah, I was about to say, this is what I called it in my species last year. I called it like chucking a stone in the pond and creating a ripple. You make a video, it goes viral. That changes people. They have a conversation with their friends and family about something that they learned in a video that they've seen of someone exposing a particular piece of information. That ripple can actually turn into a tidal wave.
Absolutely, it definitely can. I like this comment here. Ask a writer about Penny Kelly's consciousness influence is wonderful lady. Yes, Penny Kelly is an amazing person. I've had her on my show twice. I had her on once with just her, probably around 8 months ago, and then I had her back on for my 100th episode extravaganza, I called it, with Wayne Steiger, Jay Widener, and David Devine. And yes, she has lots of wonderful insights, and a lot of she produces content as well. And she's like right there with me, which I've learned a lot from her as well, and how she's had contact with these, she calls them little green men, I believe, and they apparently showed her the future and like what's going to happen in the next 10 years. If people are interested in that, I highly recommend it, because I believe that something like what she's talking about is legit going to happen. There's only a couple of ways that this whole thing can go, and all this has been done on purpose for something really big. And the only way that it can go is down. And that's not me being, pessimistic or not hoping for the best. It's just the only trajectory that we have. Unfortunately,
we say the best we can hope for is the complete collapse of civilization.
Yes,
that's the best thing that we can hope for. The best scenario, because anything apart from that, if civilization survives, it will basically mean some sort of like higher level of enslavement. So
Babylon needs to go.
No, the Great Reset means everything needs to crumble. We a Mad Max civilization is literally my sort of utopia. That's the best I can hope for in like 20 years' time.
That's the real reset.
Yeah, that's the real reset.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the way that it has to go. Everything has to crumble. We can't take a broken system into anything new that's beneficial for all of humanity, for the entire population. Our systems has been corrupted. Our medical industry has been corrupted. Obviously, if that's not apparent in the past 2 years, then I don't know what planet you're living on. Our school systems has been corrupted. Our governmental systems has been corrupted. It all has to go. It all has to crumble down. And I believe that something like that is going to happen. Now, the only thing that I'm not sure about is the catalyst, right? There has to be a catalyst for anything to collapse, right? They just can't up and collapse everything.
Do you know what I think the best catalyst would possibly be?
I think nature needs to intervene.
No, the best catalyst for the total collapse of Western civilization, all civilization, would be the complete normie realization of what actually happened in the last 2 years. If they broadcast the truth on every news station around the world for like 48 hours with like look what have Pfizer lied about this, look at all the deaths, and if you totally collapsed all trust in the worldwide medical industry, I think all the governments would probably fall.
That's what Penny Kelly says. That's what she says is going to happen.
Seriously?
Yep.
What? That's what the little green men told her?
Yeah. She says that.
Gosh.
In that interview that I did with her, she says that people realize the truth and there's an uprising, and that there's an uprising against the government.
I think
in 2024.
I think one of the triggers is going to be them forcing their reset. It's going to make
that's
people
the thing.
see it.
Yeah, I said this in 2020. I said the Great Reset will look like the Great Reset until the last minute, when it will be a proper reset, and it just be a load of rubble. Everyone, fuck it, we have to just burn everything down. There's no way we can let this happen. We cannot let Lord Schwab take over. Just burn the whole world down.
I think it's going to be a combination of some things. I think that Penny's right, that some people are going to learn the truth. And then I think that it's also that Mr. T is going to have a part to play. And
do you think he's going to come back onto the world stage and complete his plan?
Yes, he is, but he's going to lose again.
Really? Oh, mate, because I think Trump. I mean, we talked about Trump a lot like 2 years ago, and whatever happens, he's still one of my favorite characters in this. He's still a fantastic character in this play. Whether he's a Freemason or a Rosicrucian or a 33rd degree paedophile, I don't really care. They're all like that by default, so I shouldn't really expect anything different. But he's entertaining.
Yes. But here's the thing, and this is just my personal thoughts, and this does not mean that I'm anti-Trump. Does not mean that I'm anti whatever. Right? This is just my own personal thoughts and ideas and opinions of what I think, and is the way that they are going to collapse it. Right? I believe that Trump will run again in 2024. And his entire campaign will be on how bad the current administration is doing right now. And, inflation all-time highs, gas prices all-time highs. They're trying to force jabbing everybody. People's lost their jobs. The economy is completely collapsed. And the majority of the population will be behind him on this. Even the left will be wanting him back in office, right?
Sure.
And he loses again, right? And then you'll see a January 6th event on steroids, and that will be the catalyst of
like the ultimate finale.
Yep.
On Capitol Hill,
when Trump gets literally like 99% of the vote, and they still. Oh no! Wait a minute. Wait! Don't. We got to strike for that before. Don't say those words. Sorry. Yeah. we still got an active warning about that.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. But I think that's what it's that's my personal thoughts, my personal ideas, that's the way that it's going to go. And it's already been set up that in 2020 that the whole thing was a whoop-de-woo, so they're just going to hit us with another whoop-de-woo. And then that's going to inevitably create a uprising against the government. And it's going to be us that's going to take it down.
Well, so that would be. Hey, bring it, if that's what happens, bring it on.
We've covered a lot here.
Yeah, we've really
hour.
We've really been on a tour de force in this hour. Yeah. Oh, look, 33 minutes past midnight. Good timing. I like that.
Oh yeah,
well,
33.
I tell you what, after this chat, Ryder Lee, I'm probably going to need to go back through your back catalogue and check out some of the people you've been speaking to, because it really it seems like you've been down multiple rabbit holes, I've got to say.
Yes, thank you guys so much for inviting me on. I really appreciated it. I love the conversation, and big shout out to Paul Knight from What the Flock TV for getting me in contact with you guys. And,
yes, we love What the Flock TV, mate. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's been on my show 3 times so far. So wonderful man, very honorable individual, and Sam in the chat. Yes, Sam, thank you, brother. Appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, we've got all your links there. So if you want to get hold of any of Ryder Lee's content, Raised by Giants, YouTube, and there's the podcast links there as well, and the Facebook page too. Mate, thank you so much for coming on.
Mate, that was an awesome chat.
I
was watching it in the other room. I think it's a very good interview. This one was a very good guest. Nice one. Thank you, Ryder.
Yeah, we've covered a lot. It's been excellent, mate. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you a lot.
Take care. Rise above.
Rise above, generate, rise above, extinguish fear, rise above, abstract.